of what brings us forward in our dreams. Our dreams come true today. A long-pending desire has been fulfilled with the presence of Dr. Subramanian Swamy in our midst today. Dr. Subramanian Swamy is an internationally known public figure, a renowned economist, trained mathematician, and a relentless crusader against corruption. Currently serves as a member of Rajya Sabha. He has served as a member of Planning Commission of India and was a cabinet minister many times. He attended Hindu College, University of Delhi, where he earned his honours degree in mathematics. He got his post-graduation from the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. He received his PhD in economics in 1965 from Harvard University and worked as a professor in Harvard University and later in Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, from 1969 to 1991. He has jointly authored books on economics with his academic guru, the Nobel laureate Dr. Paul A. Samuelson. He was elected as a member of parliament 5 times between 1974 and 1999. During 1990 and 91, he served as the cabinet minister of commerce and law. He was a founder member of Janata Party. During 1994 and 96, he served as the chairman of the Commission of Labour Standards and International Trade. Earlier in 1978, group of eminent persons and was called to Geneva, Switzerland to prepare a report of the United Nations trade and development of economic cooperation between developing countries. Also, he simplified trade procedures and formulated a new export strategy which became the forerunner of trade reform adopted subsequently. He is a staunch nationalist and has furthered India's interest in international forums and bodies. Dr. Swamy was the architect of the opening of diplomatic relations with China and Israel in the late 1970s. He also served as the chairman of the Board of Governors of the SCMS Group of Educational Institutions, Kerala. He has written on foreign affairs of India, dealing largely with People's Republic of China, Pakistan, and Israel. He was nominated to Rajya Sabha in April 2016. He wrote many books named Assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, Hindus Under Siege, The Terrorism in India, a Strategy of Deterrence for India's National Security. He is deeply intellectual, a passionate academic, and a great teacher, mentor, apart from his many and more prominent public presence. We are honored by his presence. Now I request our chief guest to deliver a special lecture on need for Indianizing our education.
I thank the Rathinam group of institutions and the Shiksha Sanskriti for giving me this opportunity to speak to the intellectuals of this institution on a very, very important topic for our country's future. So I am particularly grateful to the eminent people on the stage, the CEO, Mr. Manikam, Mr. Vinod, who's the South India coordinator, Sundar, who's the advisor to the group, Professor Hindu Judan, and Mr. Santosh, Dr. Santosh, professors and students in this audience. The topic is need for Indianization for education. Now there are three crucial words in this. One is the word need. What kind of need? Two is Indianizing. What does that mean? And third is education. What constitutes education? So I'll deal with these three words, not in this sequence, but I'll first speak about Indianization. Then I'll speak about education. And finally, the need for what I said in regard to Indianization and education. Now, the Indianization doesn't mean that we are basing it on religion. Indianization is based on civilization values of our heritage. We are the longest serving culture. The UNESCO had about 5 years ago made a list of all civilizations that had come and gone. And they made a list of 46 civilizations since the dawn of civilization. 45 have disappeared. Iran's Zoroastrian civilization disappeared, Mesopotamia, Babylon, Egypt, Rome, Greece, like that. They've all disappeared except one, and that is the Indian civilization, which is a country. This is not my view. This is the view of a study by the UNESCO. And how proud we should be that this is a continuing civilization, because we have been invaded and butchered, looted, debased. Despite all that, the continuation will work. Many people that by Indian civilization you mean Hindu. The core is Hindu. But what about these other religions which have come and contributed? So the same way, whatever is the foundation of this is not Hindu religious, but the stamp is that of the Hindu. And so we begin by asking, what is that we mean by Hindu-Islam religion? The values, the customs, the interrelations. In our country, we venerate the knowledgeable, the person of learning. And we don't look at him as to what kind of clothes he's wearing. I remember when I first went in as a student to do my PhD at Harvard, an American student sitting next to me before the professor came asked me a question. Why do you Indians follow Mahatma Gandhi? So I thought he was going to object to some ideology of Mahatma Gandhi. I said, why not? He said, the man is not properly dressed. How can you follow such a person? Or he is half naked, he's just got a piece of cloth that he put on around his waist, and you people follow him. Now that is Indian value. In America, England, Europe, the political leaders are all very well dressed. They wear tie, the best tie, the best suit, the shining shoes. If you are not well dressed, you cannot be a leader in the Western world. But in India, not only for politics, but also for religion. Our religious leaders, they have a simple bhagwan, cloth wrapped over themselves. And they can be considered so great that people come and prostrate before them. The Shankaracharyas, in our country, people go high and mighty, go and prostrate before them. And you see them how simply they are dressed. So there is some speciality. How we behave towards our parents is totally different from the way the Western world behaves to their parents. Here we look after them. Of course, the Westernized Indians don't, but Indian tradition is that we venerate our parents and look after them. In the Western world, they are all poor people. You have to go and see them sitting in parks and feeding the birds that they are there, because they have retired and their children don't care for them. So, there is a value system which arises from interpersonal relations, how you view the situation, There are so many aspects of it. And that is typically Indian. And so I would say that what we need to develop this Indianization concept, we need 5 things we have to be clear about. First is, be clear about what your identity is. Somebody said, what is my identity as Indian? I have my passport, therefore I am Indian. That's not an identity. That is citizenship in a republic. Identity is what you identify with the soil of this country and also with the other Indians. When you are abroad and you see another Indian in a marketplace, you may be a total stranger, but you will respond to him differently. So there is what is called by Professor Samuel Huntington, who wrote a famous book on who we are, something called salience, and the other is called substance. The substance is how you relate yourself with other Indians. Your history, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Diwali, these are all things which relate to yourself with other Indians. And the same thing is salience, where you identify from Himalayas to Kanyakumari. You have a specialty for each area, and you go on occasions on pilgrimage. These are all aspects of your identification of the soil of this country. In my opinion, every Indian ought to identify himself in this way of this country, whether he is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or any other religion. Because now we have found that the DNA of Indians, according to research published in the Journal of Genetics in very many places, the University of Cambridge, for example, Mysore University, Houston University, they say the DNA of the Indian from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, from Jamnagar to Dibrugarh is the same. There is no difference. There is no difference in the DNA of a Brahmin or scheduled caste or Kshatriya. All of them the same. That is, the Varna system was never based on race, contrary to what the British taught. And between Hindus and Muslims and Christians, the DNA is the same. And I have occasionally proved this in political disputes, because once there was a person who is now no more active in politics, I find, in Bombay. He was called Raj Thakare. He used to propagate that all these UP walas have come to my area in Bombay and taken away our Marathi jobs by capturing the taxi market. So I told a friend of mine, can we get a sample of Raj Thakare's hair? Because by hair I can test the DNA. So he said, yes, I go to the same hairdresser that Raj Thakare goes, so I'll get you a sample. So he got me a sample. And then I went to a UP taxi driver in Bombay and asked him, here's 100 rupees, can I cut a small piece of your hair? He looked at me as if I was man fellow. But 100 rupees was tempting, so he said, okay, you can cut his hair. I sent it to the Hyderabad Microbiological Laboratory. And back came the answer that the DNA was the same. And I announced it in Bombay. Raj Thakare also came from UP because his DNA is that of a UP man. And therefore he cannot object to UP man coming to and taking away the job. From that day he stopped talking about Marathi differences. And here also throughout the letters of reconstruction, those who say that there are two races in India, one is Adian and the other is Dravidian, that the Dravidians ruled India. Then the Aryans came from Europe via Khyber Pass, defeated the Dravidians, drove them to the south. This is all nonsense. The DNA theory, the DNA investigation disproves it. People say, no, in South people have darker skin than North India. Skin color has nothing to do with race. It is just the pigmentation under your skin. And you are deep in South, the sun rays are direct, so your pigmentation turns in color. If you are in a cold climate, the sun rays doesn't hit you directly. And that is why in America there was a black singer called Michael Jackson. I think you must have heard of him. When he read this one day in a book about pigmentation, he went to a plastic surgeon and said, take out my pigmentation. And the doctor took out his pigmentation and he began looking like a white man. So therefore, skin color has got nothing to do with race. And so if you are one, then the Aryan Dravidian theory is bogus. I had many discussions with Karnanidhi on this. He used to say, no, we are different people. And he said that, your Ram is an Aryan and Ravan was our Dravidian. So I will celebrate Ravan Leela, but not Ram Leela. Well, they did celebrate Ravan Leela for some years, but I brought out Kamban Ramayana, I brought out Valmiki Ramayana and showed me that Ravan actually was born on the borders, across the borders of Delhi, in an area called Noida nowadays. There is a village there called Bisra. If you ever come to Delhi, please travel to Bisra. There is a big board there that this is the home village of Ravan. He was born there, and his wife Mandodari was born in Meerut, which is the old name for Hastinapur. And Ravan went to Mansarovar. He prayed to Lord Shiva. He gave him a boon. With that boon, he decided he will conquer some prosperous place. The most prosperous place at that time was Kuber's Sri Lanka, and he captured it, and he became the king of Lanka. That is Ravan. So Ravan was not a South Indian; he was actually a North Indian, where they settled in Sri Lanka. And over a period of time, Karunanidhi has given up this Ravan Leela business, but he is still very hostile to Rama. Because I remember when I was arguing in the Supreme Court against the breaking up of the Ram Setu by the Setu Samudram project, because I won that case, so now Ram Setu cannot be touched. Karunanidhi got very upset. He said, who's Swami to call this Ram Setu? Was Ram an engineer? Which engineering college he went to? Now he was making fun of Ram. But next day he felt very sick. And he was taken to Ramchandra Medical Hospital. So I wrote him a letter, are you sure that Rama has got an MBBS or an MD? So this is the kind of trivialization the British have put into your brain. That you are different people. Your Varna system is a racial system. And everything north is foreign. This whole idea, therefore, we need now to develop our identity in clarity. That we are one people right from Kanyakumari to Kashmir and from the borders of Gujarat to the borders of Assam. And there is no difference. And there is no difference even in the Varna. Because Varna was never birth-based at all. If Varna was birth-based, how Vishwamitra, who was born in a Kshatriya household, became a Maharishi? How did Veda Vyasa, whose mother was a fisherwoman, became a Maharishi? How did Kalidasa, who was a Vanavasi cutting branches of trees, became a Maharishi and the greatest poet? And similarly, Valmiki. He was born in what is nowadays called a Dalit family. He became a Maharishi. And even today, the scheduled caste in Meerut and other places, they celebrate the Valmiki Divas. So, this Varna was never based on that. It cannot be. If there are any differences, it is because of lack of opportunities, prejudice, and so many other things. Educate everybody equally, you become completely Indian, one Indian. Ambedkar was a scheduled caste. His teacher, by the way, his original name was not Ambedkar. His original name was Mahar. And his teacher's name was a Brahmin, was Ambedkar. So his teacher told him, "You are a very bright boy. You must go abroad and study." But there will be a lot of objections and protests and obstructions. So you change your name and take my name. That's how he became Ambedkar. So he went to Columbia, he got a PhD. And it's a very good PhD in economics. I've read his thesis on monetary economics. It's an excellent, even though till 1916. What prejudice he must have faced, because in 1962 I went to get a PhD. I got it in 64. But the fact is that even those days people used to think that we have jumped off from the trees and we are first cousins of monkeys. That was the view in America. It's only the software revolution which has changed the minds of the Americans about us. So he got this PhD, all this opposition, and he went to England, got a law degree, and then he came to India and Sardar Patel made him chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, which he piloted beautifully and produced the biggest constitution of any country in the world, with almost every issue covered by some article. And he was a great scholar. But the governments from 1947 till 1990 never recognized him. He never got a Bharat Ratna till 1990, till we people came to power. And that time the Bharat Ratna was given to Dr. Ambedkar for the first time. And I can also tell you, when I was Law Minister in 1991, in Chandrasekhar's government, he asked me, Chandrasekhar one day said, Republic Day is coming, who shall we give Bharat Ratna to? So I said, let me look at the list. And I went through the list and I found Sardar Patel missing. So I went through the files. I was a bit surprised. How can Sardar Patel not have got Bharat Ratna? So I looked at the list and found that the first Bharat Ratna was given in 1954, when it was established by Jawaharlal Nehru. And the first person who got Bharat Ratna was Jawaharlal Nehru. And in the file it is written, I, Jawaharlal Nehru, hereby nominate Jawaharlal Nehru for Bharat Ratna, signed Jawaharlal Nehru. And now today they complain when the nationalists own up Ambedkar and Sardar Patel, the fact is you have recognized them. And on the contrary, the prejudice was so high. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge, he failed there. In fact, no member of the Nehru family has passed a college exam, I can say openly. And he came back and the congressman declared him as a Pandit. The person who deserved the title of Pandit was Dr. Ambedkar. They never recognized him. The person who had done no scholarship didn't pass an exam. He became Pandit. These are the prejudices which we have to overcome. There are prejudices which were not there before. As I gave the example of Vedavyasa and Vishwamitra and others, there was never a birth-based caste system. And we have to now bring it back. Now it's not possible to revive the Varna system. We have two concepts, one is Varna and the other is Jati. The English people put it into one and call it caste. Jati is basically blood grouping so that you don't marry in a certain way, so that you don't get recessive genes in your children. But it's got nothing else more than that. And as far as Varna is concerned, it was the division of labor. That Bhrigu and Bhardwaja had a debate on this. And Bhrigu said that there are four sources of power: knowledge, weapons, wealth, and land. And they should be decentralized so that no one gets more than one of this. And that's how this Varna system came. But today I think we have to shelve it and regard ourselves as Indian, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, from down under to Tripura. That is something that has to be instilled. So the first thing about when you talk about Indianization is the feeling that I am an Indian, like any other Indian. This is not going to be easily palatable to those who wanted to separate our country into pieces, who want to create a class war, class struggle in our country. But the duty of all nationalists is to regard all Indians of the same, and of the same ability, the same thing, only differences in opportunities. The second thing, and I must say that because of the genetics, Muslims also have the same DNA, Christians also have the same DNA. This means that their ancestors are Hindus. And therefore you call yourself Hindustan, it means the land of Hindus and those others whose ancestors were Hindus. The day the Muslim accepts this, there will be a lot of family connections that can be created. It's not necessary that you have to change your culture, to change your religion. Muslims went to Persia and conquered it, defeated the Zoroastrians. But they accepted that language, Persian. Persian is the language of the Iranians and is not the language of those invaders. Similarly, Indonesia was completely Hindu. The Arab traders went there and managed to finally take over the country, but they have not yet given up their Hindu country. You know, the central square of Jakarta, the capital city, you will have a big chariot with Krishna sitting and advising Arjuna in the middle of the most populated, most crowded area of Jakarta. There, 1,000 rupiah note. Please get somebody to send it to you from Indonesia. It has a Ganesha in it. I was in a conference as a minister once with the Indonesian finance minister and asked him, how did you put Ganesha there? The people are supposed to be Muslim. He said, see what happened is in 1997 there was a financial collapse of East Asia and the currency was devaluating by the hour. We didn't know what to do. At that time somebody suggested to us that if you put Ganesha in the new notes, then it will stop falling. So he said, we have tried everything, nothing is working, let's put Ganesha. And they did put Ganesha and the currency stabilized. So since then they have got Ganesha on it. Their airline is called Garuda. We call our airlines as Air India. They call their airline as Garuda. You can go there in Thailand, you can see that the influences there. It doesn't change the religion. So same way, just because you have changed your religion from Hindu to Muslim or Christian, it doesn't mean you have to change. Gandhi wrote in Harijan, why am I against Christian missionaries? Because he said, they not only change your way of your religion, but they change your dress. You stop eating with your hands, you start eating with your fork knife, everything changes, they come with a baggage. That's why I'm opposing. Gandhi was always against Christian missionaries. He said, if I get power, I'll ban them. And therefore, the issue is not whether you can change your religion. Of course you can. It's your right, but there is no requirement that you have to change your culture. So this would be the first part of Indianization. The identity, clarity in your identity. You may be a Tamil, but your DNA is Indian. That is something that you have to make people accept, particularly in Tamil Nadu. The second thing is that there is so much hatred and opposition built for Sanskrit. Sanskrit was a medium of interstate communications for centuries. Even after the Mughals came, it continued in large measure. It was only after Macaulay came, he took a decision that you cannot control this country if people learn Sanskrit. So make fun of it, make joke of it, make it difficult, kill all these Sanskrit pundits, but don't let them learn Sanskrit. And in its place, you must learn English. Today, we are using English, but that's not because the Englishmen gave it to us. That's because it became an international language thanks to the Americans. The Americans' mother tongue was not English. Today, nobody would be using English. American constitutional fathers, when they met to decide which language the new country of the United States of America should adopt, the question was whether it should be English or German. By one vote in the Constituent Assembly of the United States, English won. So the English became the medium of instruction in the United States, and now because the United States is so far, English is now all over the world, in the United Nations, it's in the internet, it's everywhere. So learning English is not a bad thing. At the same time, remember this heritage of yours of Sanskrit. Why? Because that's the future. How is that the future? Please go to the internet and go to Google and type NASA and Sanskrit. What does it say? It says that the field of artificial intelligence, there are two computer science professors here, you will bear me out. The field of artificial intelligence, one of the areas is the storage of knowledge. We are born, we learn, we get experience, we die, and everything goes with it. So how to bring in that knowledge, collect it, and make an encyclopedia of practical knowledge. For that project, the question was that there are so many languages in the world, so we need one language to store in computer. And after several years, in 1988, Rick Briggs of the NASA, he wrote in the Journal of Artificial Intelligence, published by NASA, that the best language for storing knowledge in the computer is Sanskrit, and therefore Sanskrit has been made compulsory. Today you go to England, the most famous public school called St. John's Public School, they made Sanskrit compulsory. For 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I went there to check whether it is very true. I saw it on the internet. I went there and it was true. And I asked the principal. The principal said that I saw enough literature to know that learning Sanskrit and reciting slokas generates vibrations in your body which leads to the brain development. And therefore I made it compulsory in St. John's School in London. Germany, now they are learning Sanskrit in big ways. But if I say learn Sanskrit, you will say, oh, this is communalization, this is Hindutva. I mean, this is your treasure, this is your heritage, and you are being told not to learn it. Because of the fact that those who don't want you to be united, don't want you to learn Sanskrit. Sanskrit's vocabulary is in every language. In Malayalam it must be about 80% Sanskrit words. In Bengali it should be about the same. Gujarati 65%, Kannada 65%. Tamil, I took out the dictionary, Tamil dictionary of the Madras University, Tamil English dictionary, and then started counting words which are Sanskrit. and I found there were 40% words which were Sanskrit. Anubhavam, Kirti, Shigram. These are all Sanskrit words. I told Karnayiji that also. He said, no, not at all, this word, but it's wrong. I said, but your name is also Sanskrit. I asked, you know what is the DMK symbol called? Chinnam. That is Sanskrit for chin. What is the Chinnam? Udayan Suryan. That is, Udaya means rising. Suryan means sun. So everything is Sanskrit, but we don't realize. The other thing that is done propaganda against is that milestones cannot be in Hindi. Where is the milestone in Hindi? It's in Devanagari script. Devanagari script and Tamil script are almost same. The principles are the same. They both come from Brahmi. Devanagari, if Tamil I take ka and I want to write ki, what do I do? Put a matra. The same thing in Devanagari. You can learn that once you know Tamil script, you can learn Devanagari script in exactly 2 days. And people come from different parts of the country. You can have one in Tamil script, you can have one in English script, and you can have one in Devanagari. And Devanagari is used not only by Sanskrit. It's used by Hindi, of course. It's used by Marathi. It's used by Nepali. It's a script. And even in that, it is considered the computer's most friendly script. That also has been found out. So here is a question that first your identity, your own one. 2, ultimately interstate language has to be Sanskrit as it was before. It can come through Sanskritizing Hindi. The vocabulary of Hindi should borrow only from Sanskrit. And you will be surprised to know that if you go to the Constitution of India and read Article 351, it says Hindi shall be the official language of India, but its vocabulary shall be increasingly borrowed from Sanskrit. That's there in the Constitution. So those who talk about the Constitution, they can't oppose Sanskrit. And as Hindi goes on taking more and more Sanskrit, one day you become Sanskrit. That's what happened to Pali. When Adi Shankara defeated Mandana Mishra, it became clear that now Buddhism will go as the main religion of India and Hinduism will return. At that time, his juniors asked him whether we should give up Pali and burn all the books. He said, no, these are actually as sacred for us as for them. But Pali can now start using more and more Sanskrit words, and in 50 years it will become Sanskrit. And that's what happened. Pali became Sanskrit by evolution. And we have to make Hindi also Sanskrit by evolution. It's very easy to learn Tamil, English and Sanskrit or Hindi and make it optional and teach it, because that's the way to bring us all together, and it will become very easy for our integration. Today, many Tamil young boys, when nobody is looking, tell me that we feel sad that when we go to North India, we have such disadvantage in getting jobs. So we don't know some Hindi. There is no harm in learning Hindi. All those leaders who oppose Hindi, please find out whether their children have learned Hindi or not. I know at least one prominent leader who did against Hindi, but his children went to DAV school and learned Hindi. And so, for masses, no learning Hindi. But for us, for ourselves, of course, we learn Hindi. So Hindi is a language which is, now you can go to Assam, you can learn Hindi. I mean, you can speak in Hindi. You can go to Gujarat to speak in Hindi. Go to Kashmir, you can speak in Hindi. And Hindi is no more a language of Uttar Pradesh. It's a language which is probably used in all over India, and in fact Hindi films are now nationally the most popular. So this third thing that you have to do to get Indianized is to make a commitment if you have the time. If you don't have the time, then you make the children do it. Learn Sanskrit. It's not difficult. We have Sanskrit Bharati. I'm sure I've seen them here. They, in fact, I have forgotten most of my Sanskrit and then they revived my memory. In just 10 days, they make you start talking in Sanskrit. So, and Coimbatore is a very, very strong unit of the Sanskrit Bharati way. And you should learn it because this will really create your consciousness for the Indianness. Last thing I would say for Indianness before I go on to education is that remember one thing. The sadhus and sannyasis of India, like Ramdev, like Swami Dayananda Saraswati who is no more, or C.C. Ravi Shankar, or so many others, their ashram is full of foreigners from Europe and America. And in large numbers, very well-to-do people. I asked one of them that you have made so much material gain. What makes you come here? And that person told me, and which others then confirmed, we come to India to learn how to be happy. We are not happy in America. We are wealth, but our, we are all the time very disturbed. So we have come for that. And that is the secret of India. We never said that wealth is the determination of your social status. Even in the Varna, the wealth is the third position. First position is the acharyas, the learned people, who have nothing. If you are an acharya, you have no house, you have no land, you have no money, you have to beg for your daily needs. That was the system. If you were a king, you had weapons, but you can't make policy. You can't declare war unless the Brahmins okay it, or the acharyas okay it. Wealth is not bad, but if you have hoarded your wealth, if you have kept your wealth for more than you need for your work and your personal pleasure and comfort, then you are not respected. But if you give philanthropy, you give away the rest for good works in the society, then you are venerated. So that was the system. So the development of economic development that we need in our country is where the development harmonizes with spiritual values. Otherwise it will lead to class struggle, class hatred, and in the end you will find that people will be fighting amongst themselves, they will be unhappy, there will be jealousy, there will be greed. Greed means corruption, corruption means destruction. So you have to have spiritual values also built into the pursuit of your prosperity. So this would be what I would call as governance, as Indianization, and that is typically in a democratic framework. Democracy has been traditionally the Indian method, where you argue. India, in Sanskrit, there is a word called Shastra. If you want to convert somebody, don't do it forcibly, but argue with him. That's what Shankaracharya did with all the Buddhist scholars. There was never force, there was always by argument. So this democratic spirit. But that democratic spirit, please understand, is not absolute. People say, I have a fundamental right to eat what I want. Sorry, that's not what the Constitution says. Constitution says your fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions. What reasonable restrictions? Security of the state, public order. Some people say, I have a fundamental right to practice any religion I like. Yes, you have a fundamental right to practice religion, but again, Article 25 of the Constitution says, subject to 3 restrictions: morality, public order, and health. You can't say that my religion requires my firstborn head to be chopped and given as prasad to some temple. Sorry, that's bad for health. So the state can intervene. You can't say, I will have triple talaq because this is my right, this is my religion. Who are you to tell me that? And that also is not true, because in our Constitution, Article 14 says all are equal before the law. So if you give a right to the man, you must give a right to the woman. And that has also been our tradition, by the way. Somebody asked me, how can you prove that our tradition is that men and women are equal? I said, I'll prove to you that women are superior to men in our tradition. So how? I said, see, Brahma's cabinet. Look at the important portfolios. Who's having it? Defense is with Durga, finance is with the Lakshmi, and education is with Saraswati. Which portfolio has gone to male god? Information broadcasting to Narad Muni. This is the power of women, and when the male gods could not succeed against the Asuras, they fell and went and fell at the feet of Durga to save them. And that's how Kali was born. She took the form of Kali. So the tradition is, we have fought for women now. When the Subramanian people said on 5 days or a month, we will not allow women, if there is nothing to do, who are you to decide this? Who is there in your Shastra? Shastras can be changed. This is another thing that you must know about Hindu religion. We have 2 parts to our spiritual teachings. One is called Shruti, which is what God gives you, which is Vedas, Upanishads, Aranyakas, etc. And the other is called Smriti, which is Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti. These are codes of behavior and can be changed over time. So from Manu, we went by Yajnavalkya, Yajnavalkya, we went to Daksha. So it's wrong to say, oh, it was like that those days, so therefore it should be like that now. No. You move with times in codes of behavior, in the law that you adopt. But in terms of the spiritual thing, that which the Vedas say is philosophy, that you cannot change. So therefore, I would say that I today would tell you very clearly that the Indianization means the empowerment of both men and women as equals. It means the equality of everybody. There is no high caste, low caste, or superior people and inferior people. We are all one people. From this soil, we did not come from anywhere else, and our DNA is the same. That is the Indianization you should practice. And you should have this value. When it comes to education, what is that transforms our society? It's not education. It is innovation. New ways of doing things. Previously I used to walk, then I got a bullock cart, then I got a locomotive, now I got an aeroplane, one of these days I have a rocket. So these innovations have transformed us. Previously I used to give a pigeon something writing, the pigeon used to fly and deliver. Then came telegraph, then came postal service, and now it's on internet. You send emails, it's instantaneous. It's wholly transformed. These are all due to innovations. So education has to have several components. The first component of education is called what is called as cognizable, cognitive science. What physics, mathematics, all these are cognitive. But then you are not a human being if you only know cognitive science or cognitive thinking. You need to know how to deal with other people. So now in the Western world, in the educational departments, they have recognized that there is a second dimension to intelligence, which is called emotional intelligence. How to articulate your views, how to speak in a way where the other person is ready to accept your point of view, how to convince somebody, what is the structure of arguments that you should have in a debate. This is called emotional intelligence. Then they have recognized one more, which is called, after emotional intelligence, is called social intelligence. That is, you design all your actions in such a way that the society, if not strengthened, is certainly not weakened. You must do those actions which promote the society's development. Take the case of Rathinam Godse. He was very angry with Mahatma Gandhi and he killed him, saying that he was anti-Hindu. But who did he empower? He empowered those who were not at all pro-Hindu or not committed Hindu. People like Jawaharlal Nehru. Jai Chand wanted to take revenge against his son-in-law, who humiliated him. He was justified in wanting to take revenge. But he took the revenge by joining with Muhammad Ghori. And Muhammad Ghori took his help, and after being defeated, how many times I don't know, he finally defeated Prithviraj Chauhan and then killed Jai Chand also. So that is an action which lacks social perspective. You must do things, you must act, no matter what your anger in you is, in a way by which society improves. Then another category of intelligence recognized is moral intelligence. You should not try to make progress by immorally putting the other person down, or by cheating, or by fraud. You can make progress by cheating and fraud, but you must not do it. We don't know. Nowadays, people are getting caught for having cheated. You see lots of this in television nowadays. And I hope this trend continues and we catch more and more people. So it becomes an example. So this moral intelligence is very important. And finally, there is a branch of intelligence now being taught in the Western world, which says there is a branch of intelligence called spiritual intelligence. And that is something we always knew but forgot. What the Western world is now saying is that all knowledge is in the cosmos, which in Sanskrit we call it the Brahman. And if you want to gather knowledge, then you must be able to connect your brain to this cosmos or Brahman. And that's by meditation. At least that's what our English used to say. Meditation, concentration. That will enable you to connect your brain to this cosmos, and therefore any problem whatsoever you can solve. This is what now the Americans are calling the neural Wi-Fi to connect. That's learning, cognitive, everything fine. But in terms of going outside the boundary of your knowledge, that's only there in the cosmos. All past knowledge, future knowledge, present knowledge is there in the cosmos. Yeah, the cosmos looks so, ephemeral. How can it be? Well, do you ever see the telephone, mobile phone, when you make a phone call, you don't see it going. You don't see the sound traveling. It travels and reaches there. So the same way, this knowledge which you see in print, it's not necessary for it to be in print. It's there in the atmosphere. So if you have clean habits, good habits, and you follow the prescriptions of our sadhus and rishis and sannyasis, then you will be able to connect your brain to that. And then you become superhuman, you become a genius. And for that, we have to teach our students. Not that every student has to become a research scholar, but that who wants to do it. What is the ultimate goal of education? Innovation. New ways of solving old problems. This Kaveri dispute keeps coming up every time because there is not enough water in Kaveri for the two states. So a fight takes place. So what is the solution? Find a new way. You want water or you want Kaveri water? If you just want water, then desalinate seawater. That's one of the new innovations that has come. And Tamil Nadu is such a vast coast that 4 desalination plants you put, you'll get enough water not only for your agriculture but for 24 hours in your tap, and you can also pump water in the opposite direction of Kaveri so that Karnataka also gets some water. This is the way it's solved. You want to have we don't have electricity. Today, of course, there's not, people are, the electricity ministry is boasting that we are now in surplus. No, surplus is because the demand has gone down. But we want electricity 24 hours uninterrupted, the voltage stabilized. That can be done through thorium nuclear reactors. And we have got 60% of the world's thorium on the sands of Tamil Nadu and Kerala. We have to learn to process that monazite, convert it into U-233, and that requires 3 stages. We have already solved 2 stages. We need 1 more stage. So we need some bright person to focus his attention on it and provide this country with it. Like that, there are so many innovations that we will not need to depend on anybody else because we've got to live through the country. So the education should be focused ultimately in developing multiple intelligences to become a better person. There are a few other additional parts which I find special for Indians. At Harvard, whenever my course got over, and I used to have students from many countries, I used to pose a question. Now that you have finished your exams and you're going to go into the real world, what kind of career are you going to prefer? A steady job where every year your salary increases by 15% or 5%, whatever, and gratuity and pension and provident fund will be collected. At the age of 60 or 65, you retire and all that provident fund gratuity is given to you. You buy a house and a television and spend the rest of your life watching television. You want that kind of a steady job situation, or you want to, like Bill Gates of Microsoft, gamble into something and produce a software and become a billionaire. Of course, the danger is that it may not work out and you may suddenly collapse and you may flop and you may be on the streets. Now, in the class, whenever I used to ask this question, the American students used to ask me, what's the probability that I'll be like Bill Gates? What is the probability I will succeed? That's what he was asking. But the Indian students, 100% used to say to me, we prefer the first job, steady job. And I see this in IIM also. I asked them, what are you going to do after this? Oh, we're going to get a steady job in one of these multinational corporations. This steady job. So I said, what steady job? Every year 5% increase in your salary? You want guaranteed poverty? So they all say, but it is guaranteed, that is the important part. That is the psychology of Indians. Race for stability. Indians abhor risk-taking. No great achievements can ever come unless you take risk and be ready for failure. That also has to be taught in our education. Not only you should have this pride that you are an Indian, you are one with all your classmates, you are one with the rest of India, and that you have a glorious past. All this history that is being taught to you today by British written books, as it was pointed out, are bogus. There's no Aryan religion. One Saudi Arabian student I remember once asked me in a class, after a class in Harvard, what is the secret for India to be still 80% Hindu? I said, what a funny question you're asking me. Why are you asking me this question? He said, no, in Saudi Arabia we're doing research that Islam went and conquered Iran when the Zoroastrians ruling. 15 years we converted entire Iran to Islam by whatever methods we used. Neighboring country of Mesopotamia and Babylon, which has now become Iraq, we converted after conquest in 17 years. Egypt we converted into 100% Muslim in 21 years. Christians converted Europe into 50 years. But in your country, Muslims ruled for 800 years, Christians ruled for 200 years, and you're still 80% Hindu. What is the secret? The secret is that the correct history is no part of India ever stopped fighting. The example given by our earlier speaker, was it Mr. Sudhir or it was you, about Savarkar. One of the greatest scholars we have produced on history. He wrote 1857 and titled it The First War of Independence. And these people and others have documented that every part of India kept fighting and never accepted. Whether the Rana Pratap, who lost everything but still kept fighting and went ultimately to the forest, or Shivaji, who established a kingdom, or the Vijayanagaram Empire. You know how long the Vijayanagaram Empire lasted? 300 years. Covered more territory than the Mughals. What's the period from Akbar to Aurangzeb? 150 years. But look at our history books. One paragraph for Vijayanagaram Empire and one chapter for each Mughal emperor.
One chapter for Chola.
Yeah, we're coming to that. So that not a for Akbar one chapter, Jahangir one chapter, Shah Jahan one chapter, Aurangzeb one chapter. But Vijayanagaram Empire, in South India there was a empire called Vijayanagaram Empire. That's all. Chola never been reference. Indonesia was Hindu because of Cholas. Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, so many places. And never by conquest, by ideas. Bodhidharma went from Kanchipuram all the way to China, taught them what is called Wushu, martial arts, which if you read in Japanese is called karate. And now karate has come back to India and everybody is saying, I'm learning karate. It's what Bodhidharma found out. So this history is, our identity will blossom if we do the correct history. Because we are now taking steps to see that new textbooks are introduced. And we hope that in this process of Indianization, which we need very badly because we are under siege, the forces of terrorism are growing in terms of the damage they can inflict. And in the case of IS, they are openly saying that India is a unfinished chapter of Islamic history. Why everywhere else they converted the whole country into 100% Muslim. But this country they could not. So they say openly an unfinished chapter of Islamic history. And we have to defend ourselves. We can't depend on any other country. And for that, you need a united India. People who think like one, not in these silly divisions that Britishers have poked into your brain, and create a new awareness that all our problems can be solved by proper education and innovation. This is the goal that we should work for. Thank you very much.
இந்தியா என்பது பல்வேறு மதங்களால் இணைந்ததல்ல, கலாச்சாரத்தாலும் பண்பாட்டாலும் பிணைக்கப்பட்டது. இத்தகைய கலாச்சார கல்வியே மனிதனை மனிதனாக்குகிறது. அத்தகைய மனித மனத்தை பண்படுத்தி பக்குவப்படுத்த வேண்டுமானால் அதற்கு இந்திய கல்வி முறையே ஆணிவேர் என்பதனை எடுத்தியம்பிய ஐயா அவர்களுக்கு பாரதிய கல்விக் கழகம் மற்றும் ரத்தினம் கல்வி குழுமத்தின் சார்பாக நன்றியினை உரித்தாக்குகிறோம். இந்திய கல்வி முறையின் அவசியம் மற்றும் முக்கியத்துவம் குறித்த கருத்துக்கள் மற்றும் வினாக்களை நமது சிறப்பு விருந்தினர் மதிப்பிற்குரிய டாக்டர் சுப்பிரமணிய சுவாமி ஐயா அவர்களிடம் கலந்துரையாடும் தருணம் இது.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
This is Vijay here. I have a small question for you. The Indian way of education can see the two phases. Earlier we had Gurukulam way of education, and now we have turned out into various changes, and we are now almost modernized. So according to you, which one is best?
The present versus Gurukula. Well, Gurukula, you can have at the level of your PhD. Gurukula is what? That you have a guru and you have personal relations with him in terms of living in the same area as him. And there are a handful of people and they are taught. So there is no one or the other. I think when it comes to teaching of advanced topics, you have to, even in the present system, have to have a professor designated who has to teach the students. So I think we need a bit of both systems and not either or.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Rathinam, Academic Advisor, Swamy Partnership. From school education to college education, sir, we have different schools, different syllabus, different setup. Can we have under Indianization from school to college only one syllabus, one school? Say, for example, CSE statistics in higher education. Throughout India, it should be one syllabus. Whether it's Rathinam College or Dean's University or further type of academic setup, similarly, if it is a degree is awarded to a student, it should be the same from the ministry, the central ministry of HRD or whatever name is called. The particular degree should have the particular syllabus throughout. Is it possible, sir?
Well, what is possible, I can tell you. Given that we are a democracy, of course, there is, I hear them telling all the time, people say we are a federal democracy. They are not a federal democracy. Our constitution is a unitary constitution with federal principles. If it was a federal democracy, then Article 356 to dismiss a government should not be there. Leaving that point, we have education as a concurrent subject. And since it's a concurrent subject, we can't have uniformity unless the states also agree, which is unlikely. So what we have today is a Kendriya Vidyalaya. They have only one syllabus, only one exam. So we can have a parallel system of one which is uniform throughout India, and one which allows for the states to have this, and let the students choose which would they prefer. And that way we can not violate our constitution and yet meet the requirements that you have of at least one part of India would be uniformly taught in the same way.
Why I'm suggesting that we have a lot of problems, a lot of cases. So unnecessarily students are dragged into it. There are confusions at the time of the result, at the time of admission.
These have happened in the last 3 years or they've been there before?
Maybe the last 5 years.
5 years.
Definitely it will increase.
Well, I think there's a lot of serious thinking going on today in the government on how to bring about certain basic forces which are common to all parties. And I think it will take time. It is true that the last 70 years we have devoted any attention to modernizing our education, particularly the primary school level. And so I expect that these changes will come. I accept your point on principle, but I don't think I can impose that there should be none of that. You can have 2-3 systems at the same time.
And just the rate for this, it's so complex. Timing is what, because the C is a good person also. If you hear this, because I see you as a person who loves the book of example, and we all discuss about Indianization of education. Though you create a lot of good systems, I see what is the guarantee that the system will be implemented properly? Because I doubt very much. I know it is not that easy because the system is not so favorable to the government at this point.
Well, I don't know what you mean by not favorable at this point in time. Those who don't want to be part of this country are a very small part. And I remember in 1991 when I was minister, there was a serious attempt to delink Tamil Nadu out with the help of the LTP. And at that time, most people thought that this would be general opinion because the media coverage made it appear that this was the general opinion that there is a revolt in Tamil Nadu. I was given charge of Tamil Nadu. We dismissed the government, and there was no uprising, not even a cycle was burned, let alone a bus was burned. And when the election took place, the party which was in power, which was dismissed, could even get more than 2 seats out of 234 in the assembly. So I think both in the time of the Chinese conflict of 1962, the Chinese leaders themselves told me that we were shocked to see India uniting in this way. We were told that once a big defeat is imposed on India, India will break into 20 countries. And instead we saw women taking away the gold bangles and giving it to the defense fund. So this latest nationalism in our country is very much there. It has been tested many times, and if we bring it in a proper way, there is no question imposition of anything. But if it is brought in a proper way, it can be done. The mechanic is what? You have already the systems in place. You say tomorrow the syllabus for history will be so such books, whereas previously it was Ramila, Thapar and others. Or you say that mathematical texts will have a larger share of calculus than before, instead of trigonometry. So, I mean, these are very easy things. There are systems already in place. There is no need for a new system. All you are saying is that the prescribed text should be uniform. That's all we are saying.
So thank you for the answer. So I have something in my hand, very personal. I would like to give it to you because you have very little time here, I know.
Yeah.
I request you because it's my experience. I have put my experiences in this.
All right. And people sitting in the front row, you can give to them, they give them.
The title on the right, the foundations of
Give it to her.
and with the title of the foundations of broken, what a righteous man can do. So
I'll give you a reply back. Give your email address on it.
It's my mobile number I have given, my name is there.
Email.
Email I'll write it.
Email.